Okay, so I pull out the mattress. Wait, the what? Yeah, the mattress that I've been, the one I've been taking around with us. Sorry, no, wait, we can just forget about the logistics for a second, because that's a whole other issue. But your strength is 6. I mean, you couldn't even lift this thing up with your feeble arms, let alone carry it around for weeks. Okay, well, can I at least keep my ladder? No. All right, what about my pocket riding horse? Or my barrel of whiskey? Or what about my beholder corpse? No, I mean, how do you have all these things? Well, simple, a bag of holding. Welcome to Grit and Glory, the brand new TTRPG that changes the game. If you like the video, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We must appease the YouTube algorithm. And if you don't want to miss a future upload, don't forget to hit that little bell icon. But if you do want to be more a part of the community, don't forget to join our Discord, which is in the description below, where we chat, we play games, and we even post the occasional poll to get your guys' input. But now, on with the video. Carrying capacity is probably the most commonly ignored rule in all of TTRPGs, and I completely understand why. The way DnD do it is very maths heavy and very boring. And to add, fuel to the fire, they overload you with 100 practically useless items in the start of the game. I mean, no wonder people forget what they have when they have to look between 30 foot of hemp rope and 10 candles. Power now. But in Grit and Glory and many other TTRPGs, this starting equipment isn't actually useless. I mean, let's look at Shadowdark for an example. You definitely use your torch in that game. It's probably one of the most important pieces of equipment that you have. People know exactly how many they have and they plan their usage. It won't just use it for no reason. But in D&D, when was the last time you used the torch? Or when was the last time you ran out of torches to use and needed one? Probably never, right? And that's just an awful thing for the game. But the thing is, even if you did use the torches you had, you could bring so many torches with you that you wouldn't run out in 1,000 lifetimes with the way the carrying capacity works. I mean, forget torches. You could probably bring enough canoes with you to fill them with torches that you would never run out. And that's because with D&D's carrying capacity system, they only care about one thing, and that's weight, not size or shape or anything like that. So it's kind of ridiculous. No matter what conceptually you're carrying, as long as that number is small enough, you're fine. And to put this into perspective, if you have a strength of 10, which is that of the average Joe Schmo peasant, you can carry 70 kilograms of weight, no problem. That is not even someone who's been weightlifting. That's just your average normal guy. But if you do decide to build into strength, then you can get your strength up to an absolute maximum of 30, which means that the most that any being can carry is 200 kilograms. Now that might sound reasonable. 200 kilograms is an insane amount to be your absolute cap, but that only works when you don't realize that this is also a cap for things like gods or things like this gigantic beast of a lizard here. Now, yes, there is a size multiplier. So since the Tarrasque is gargantuan, you multiply this number by 8, and that turns it into a more reasonable amount of 1,600 kilograms, which is definitely closer to where it should be, but nowhere near the amount this thing should actually be able to carry around. To put this in perspective, how ridiculously small this 1,600 number is, let's look at a real life elephant. An elephant weighs about 5.5 tons, 5,500 kilograms, and it can pull around 4,000 kilograms, which is a lot more than this number. And the Tarrasque weighs about 130 tons. That is 130,000 kilograms, which means that this gigantic magical beast cannot even carry 1% of its body weight, which is ridiculous. Yes, I know that you double it when you're talking about pulling and dragging and lifting, but if the, very real non-magical elephant can pull 75% of its body weight, I think that the magical beast of a Tarrasque should at least be able to do 50%, which would be 65 1,000 kilograms. Now, to be fair to D&D, before I boil over in frustration, this is only the basic encumbrance rules, and they do have something called variant encumbrance, which is slightly better, but it does overall kind of still suck. In the basic rules that I just described, it is a flat 15 times modifier to your score. And in these new rules, there are 2 other breakpoints. One is 5 times and one is 10 times your score. This does add some depth and make it a bit better. It doesn't fix the issues, like I said, with the Tarrasque, but it does fix issues with stuff like the average peasant. And it makes strength builds a little bit stronger. Basically, if you cross the 5 times threshold, you become encumbered. And if you cross the 10 times threshold, you become heavily encumbered. Now, encumbered is a debuff, so to speak, but it's a really weak one. All it does is slightly reduce your movement speed, which is ignored outside of combat, and inside of combat is not really much of an impact at all because D&D combat is such a slog. And if you want to see how Grit and Glory fixes combat and makes it more than just a bunch of people standing still hitting each other, then you can see that video right here. So heavily encumbered, the next stage up, is actually pretty punishing and definitely worth avoiding. So I have no real notes there. But even with this variant system, encumbrance is still basically ignored 99% of the time in D&D. And there's one major reason for it. This item right here completely destroys the need to track encumbrance at all and basically destroys any benefit that strength builds get because of it. The bag of holding. Yes, this one bag just removes encumbrance from the game because it has its own storage, which is not counted towards your weight. And because that's the only thing that matters, you basically ignore encumbrance. I mean, these things are so easy to find and cheap to make that there is no excuse for your party not having one by level 3. I mean, even if you try to limit the supply in shops, with D&D's crafting rules, your players could basically factory manufacture these things with ease. But it doesn't have to be like this. In Grit and Glory, we've changed the way that you track encumbrance. Firstly, we have a visual grid. This grid is split into 3 sections. You have standard, encumbered, and heavily encumbered. Now you might be thinking, what is the purpose of this grid? Well, in Grit and Glory, every item has not just got a weight, but also a size and a shape as well. So that means that you have to take the item and fit it into the grid. This turns tracking your inventory from reading a boring blank list and doing maths for numbers into a fun visual puzzle where you can actually see the items you have in front of you. Zbashu has an amazing video on this where he does a system like this for D&D and he calls it Cubeventory. Now these systems have similar advantages to many other spatial inventory systems. I mean, firstly, they change the way that your players think of their characters. No longer will they be picking up every single scrap of garbage that they find on the floor. They're actually going to have to think about what they want to take and what they want to leave behind. And remember how I said that in D&D you get overloaded with a bunch of useless junk? Well, no one's going to forget about that in here because you'll actually be able to see it in front of you. And the great thing as well is that this actually adds mechanical effects to things that previously had no reason to take, like bags and belts, actually being able to add squares to your inventory. And finally, this removes the boring maths and number tracking that you have to do when tracking inventory. It makes it a very easy visual. Either you're over the line or you're not. You're encumbered or you're not. You don't have to track any numbers. So if you want to take a load off and relax and actually make encumbrance and inventory tracking fun, then it's time to try Grit and Glory. I hope you enjoyed that video, and a massive thank you to the Patreon supporters. This would not be possible without you guys. So if you want to check that out, please do. It massively helps the channel. But on bigger news, the Grit and Glory Kickstarter is officially going live September 24th. So keep that in date. The great thing is that early backers can actually start from today. For just £1, you can secure yourself guaranteed early access to all of the goodies from the Kickstarter. In the meantime though, why not check out one of these amazing videos?